They called it the greatest treasure the ancient world had ever known. A place where every question had an answer, every discovery was recorded, and every idea was protected from the chaos of time. The Library of Alexandria. A sanctuary of learning that once stood at the heart of the most enlightened city on earth. And then one day it was gone, burned, vanished, forgotten. You're watching Biography Plus. Imagine a time when knowledge itself was sacred. Alexandria, founded by Alexander the Great in 331 BC, was not just another city, it was an experiment, a living symbol of civilization's hunger to understand everything. At its center stood the library, part of the Great Mausoleum, the Temple of the Muses, where scholars from Greece, Egypt, Babylon, India, and beyond gathered to study, debate, and dream. Inside, thousands upon thousands of scrolls were stored, some say 500,000. It was the collected wisdom of the known world, medicine, astronomy, mathematics, philosophy, and the myths and histories of countless nations. It was said that if a ship arrived at Alexandria's harbor, its scrolls were seized, copied by the library's scribes, and the originals kept for preservation. The library did not merely collect books, it collected civilization itself. Among its readers were some of the greatest minds in human history. Euclid wrote the foundations of geometry within its halls. Archimedes studied here. Eratosthenes measured the Earth's circumference using only shadows and intellect. And Hypatia, centuries later, would become one of its last defenders, a woman of reason in an age falling back into superstition. But behind all this brilliance, there was fragility, because the library depended on peace, and peace is never permanent. The first spark of its destruction came in 48 BC. Julius Caesar's fleet was trapped in the harbor during his civil war against Pompey. To block the enemy, Caesar ordered his ships set ablaze, but the flames leapt from dock to city, and from city to library. Ancient historians wrote that thousands of scrolls were consumed in that inferno, perhaps the first great death of knowledge. Still, the library survived in some form. Parts were rebuilt. The scholars continued their work. But the damage had begun, and it would never truly end. Over the following centuries, Alexandria became a crossroads not just of cultures, but of empires, each with its own beliefs, each suspicious of what the library represented. When Christianity began to dominate the Roman world, the scholars of the old gods became targets. The Mausoleum, once sacred to the Muses, was now seen as pagan, heretical, dangerous. By the 4th century AD, zeal replaced curiosity. In 391, the Serapeum, a daughter library of Alexandria, was destroyed by a Christian mob. Statues were toppled, scrolls torn apart, and the remaining scholars scattered. The city that had once led the world into light was sinking into darkness. Then came the final blow. In the 7th century, Alexandria fell under the armies of the Islamic Caliphate. Some sources say that the conqueror, Caliph Omar, ordered the remaining scrolls burned, claiming that if their contents agreed with the Quran, they were unnecessary, and if they contradicted it, they were dangerous. Whether this tale is legend or truth, no one knows for certain. But by that time, the library, the original, the magnificent vision of human knowledge, was already gone. What had been the world's greatest mind had been erased. Think about what that means. Inside those walls were works by lost civilizations, Babylonian astronomy, Phoenician navigation, Celtic myths, Persian medicine. Entire schools of thought that might have changed the course of science, art, and human understanding simply vanished into smoke. We lost not just information, but imagination. Some historians argue that had the library survived, the Dark Ages might never have come. Knowledge might have continued to grow without interruption. Humanity might have reached the Renaissance 1,000 years earlier. The world might have learned to heal disease, navigate the stars, and live in harmony long before modern times. And yet, the story of the library is not only about loss, it is about rebirth. For centuries, the dream of Alexandria has haunted humanity, inspiring new centers of learning. Baghdad's House of Wisdom, the monasteries of Ireland, the universities of Europe. Each one in its own way an echo of that ancient beacon by the sea. Even today, the modern Library of Alexandria stands rebuilt in Egypt, a vast glass disc reflecting sunlight into the Mediterranean, a promise that knowledge will never again be silenced so easily. Still, the questions remain. Who truly destroyed the library? Was it Caesar's fire, the Christian mobs, or the slow decay of neglect? Or was it something deeper? Our own human tendency to fear what we do not understand. Perhaps the real tragedy of the library was not that it was burned, but that we let it die. The greatest minds of their age tried to preserve the truth, but in the end, it was indifference that killed it. Every time a culture chooses comfort over curiosity, or ideology over reason, a spark of Alexandria fades again. Somewhere beneath the modern city, archaeologists still search for traces, charred scrolls, stone fragments, the foundations of the Mausoleum. Maybe they will find them, or maybe they will remain buried forever, waiting for an age wise enough to learn their lessons. The Library of Alexandria may have burned, but its ashes still whisper to us. They ask the same question that haunted those who once walked its halls. Will humanity ever learn to protect its knowledge before ignorance consumes it again? You've been watching Biography Plus. If you believe history still speaks, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.